Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back as I try to shed light upon what's really happening at these violent parent-school board meetings happening around the U.S. this year. Are these meetings and parents as violent and unruly as the media are portraying them to be? Or is the media once again trying to paint a particular narrative? Let's find out together. As always, let me state that I'm no lawyer or law attorney. I'm just a guy on the internet using as many resources as I can to find out the truth. Now let's jump right into this topic. Do parents have a right to attend public school board meetings? If we're talking constitutional rights, it can get a bit hairy. Constitutionally, you have the right to protest in a publicly owned and operated space, which a school is. You can check out my video on the First Amendment for more details. However, it can also be seen as a private business that is allowed to draft its own rules, meaning they can create rules prohibiting open discussion or public commentary. So do I have the exact answer? No, I do not. I would lean toward the correct answer being that if you are allowed to attend the meeting and follow the other rules, you should be constitutionally allowed to protest or voice your opinion. When I look over a lot of these headlines about the recent school board meetings, for example, let's say in Loudoun County, Virginia, I read things like parents out of control, 2 arrested at school board meeting, violence on the rise at public school board meetings across the country. It sounds like an awful plague has hit the parents of public school children, and only the parents of public school children. When I go to watch the videos for myself, this is what I find.
With hundreds of parents flooding an auditorium to accuse the school system of teaching their kids that racism in America is structural and systemic, something the school board denies is part of the curriculum. Things got so heated that the board members eventually walked out, leaving the police to deal with the unruly crowd. 2 people left in handcuffs.
This is an unlawful arrest. I have a First Amendment right.
Loudoun County School Board has been roiled for months by accusations that it has embraced critical race theory, a school of thought that maintains that racism is ingrained in U.S. law and institutions, and that legacies of slavery and segregation have created an uneven playing field for Black Americans.
What I see is a bunch of people voicing their frustrations, trying to speak or yell over one another, but all doing so in a peaceful fashion. Sure, I can grant you that it seems to be a fair amount of people, but if you're worried about security, you should have hired more guards or police to secure the facility. So I see nothing wrong with what happened at Loudoun County. I mean, for God's sakes, a man's daughter was raped in a restroom at school, the school covered it up, and the alleged raper allegedly committed more sexual misconduct at the school he was transferred to. The father tries to speak out about this at the meeting and is arrested for doing so. He does not resist arrest and yet is labeled an angry white man or an agitator, etc. by the corporate media. Let me remind you what happened all across the country last summer, as well as over 180 nights of riots and murders in Portland, Oregon. BLM riots across the country caused billions of dollars in damages, desecrated and destroyed thousands of small businesses, many of whom will never recover. Over 30 persons were murdered in the name of BLM during all of these riots, or Antifa. The police were made to step back while a federal courthouse was firebombed for weeks. Entire sections of major downtown areas were nearly completely covered in graffiti and vandalism. And these anarchical BLM riots were called mostly peaceful protests. So if you can explain to me how parents yelling and pointing a finger at someone they're talking to is anything compared to what I just reminded you of, then I'll be glad to concede my arguments. But as of right now, in my opinion, you must be delusional to think yelling your opinion in a public setting during your allotted time for speech is an act of domestic terrorism, and not find the BLM riots to be domestic terrorism. I've watched and listened to hours of these meetings that have been made public on YouTube from all different parts of the country, and I have found limited examples of any violence. What I hear the most is, you should be worried about your job. You should resign if you have any morality left. If I was your boss, I'd fire your ass on the spot. That's not hate speech. That's not violence. It's not intimidation, nor is it even harassment. And out of these hours and hours I've watched and listened to on this subject, this is all I can find in regards to violent meetings.
Hello. I didn't think of speaking about the mask issue, but I thought I'd do. When I had signed up to speak tonight, I saw your updated policy. I posted a Facebook poll in a large Chaska Facebook group about whether or not people supported your decision or not, and 70%.
We are focusing on our children, and by doing that, we are able to do what is best for the community and for them as well. I am going to read some excerpts from my school yearbook last year. They did a poll. If COVID were to disappear today, the first or favorite thing I would do is burn most of the masks in the house, walk into the mall mask-free. I would not wear a mask because they are so annoying. Walk anywhere without a mask so I can breathe normally. I would go on vacation and enjoy the sun without a mask. These are the students who you represent, and I thank you. You've done a very good job throughout much of my education, and I truly believe I have had a wonderful education, especially compared to many other places in the United States and in the world. But I do not think that enforcing masks on every student is best for any student, especially since asymptomatic spread from student to teacher is virtually non-existent, especially in the United States of America. It does not happen. Healthy students cannot transmit to other students or to teachers whether or not they are wearing a mask. We do not need preventative measures for a risk that does not exist. I ask that you will please respect our decision to choose what we like for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you ask to take his picture?
Joyce.
Can you please delete that picture?
Yeah, you took his picture.
Stop.
Hey. Whoa, guys, come on. Hey, officers, officers, please come to the room.
Officers?
Stop.
Sitting here.
Delete the picture. Delete the picture.
Mike.
Who took the picture? I think Jonas took it.
Yeah, he should not. Yeah, no, give it to the audience.
So in this video, I'm not sure if the school had any rules about phone usage, taking pictures, and I'm not sure if it was a one-party consent state or a two-party consent state. However, the most violent thing we saw was a man taking another man's cell phone, immediately followed by two other men intervening, separating the men, and the meeting continued. Oh, this is so scary. A guy did a bad thing, and two other guys stepped in to make sure nothing else happened. And it worked. Perhaps rules or maybe laws were broken, and perhaps the attendee's response was inappropriate. But again, I'm not a legal expert. I'm here to show you the facts, so you can decide how to feel, think, and move forward. In this next article from foxnews.com titled, Arizona School Board President Kept Sensitive Personal Information on Protesting Parents, Documents Suggest. We can read that more than 600 parents in Scottsdale, Arizona are demanding the resignation of the school board president after a shocking revelation. The president, or possibly his father, appears to have kept a dossier on 47 parents who dared to speak out against his policies at school board meetings. A dossier complete with social security numbers, background checks, a divorce paper, mortgage documents, trade certifications, and screenshots of Facebook posts. Now that sounds a little more like intimidation and harassment to me. Taking personal, somewhat privileged information and holding it as some kind of blackmail against parents who speak out. You know what they say about comedy? You can tell who really runs a society by who you can't make fun of. However, this allegedly comes from a school board president and not a parent. So where's the proof of the violence? Let's keep searching.
We've gotten a glimpse of too many school board meeting rooms recently, whether it's a race and diversity discussion in Michigan or masking debates setting school board meetings on fire all over the nation. Somehow, these meetings have become windows into the soul of our nation. And here locally, we all know things did not go well at the September 27th East Carver County School Board meeting. Adults grabbing each other, prompting a letter from the district.
The closest I can come to finding violence is in this video by KARE11 TV on YouTube. The title is Losing Control at School Board Meetings. And in this video and many other mainstream left-wing publications, I repeatedly hear the words of violence, safety concerns, adults yelling and shouting using words like Marxist, communist. As I've tried to show you, there doesn't seem to be any real violence that I can find. If you're not sure what a Marxist or communist is, you can check out my videos on Marxism or communism. Both are an introduction video, and I'll try to put a link to those videos here. You have every right to shout, yell, and be offensive to others. I pointed this out in my First Amendment video. And other than a man getting his phone taken away and two men intervening, I literally cannot find any physical evidence, violence, or threats that would violate federal law, let alone city and county laws. Because let's remember, at these public school board meetings, the jurisdiction of law enforcement falls on the public or city or state police. It does not fall on the federal government. Are you able to tell me why the feds are investigating parents who have not been violent, in my opinion, and yet refuse to look at or condemn the October 14th, 2021 attack on the Interior Department by climate protesters, which led to the arrest of 55 rioters? January 6th, as many of you know, led to two very different pictures being painted, while to some degree, both were true, depending on which side of the building you were on during January 6th. You were either let in by police, or you moved through the police line on the other side, sometimes invoking in a struggle or a scuffle. On October 14th of this very same year, climate activists attacked another federal building, and nobody is calling it an insurrection, an attack on our institutions, and most people don't even know what happened. But thanks to on-the-ground reporting from Ellie Silverman on Twitter, we can see what happened for ourselves. In my opinion, this video matters in today's society because as many hours as I have put into the research for this video, I could not find any supporting evidence for what the media claims the narrative to be surrounding the public school board meetings around the country. Parents are being labeled domestic terrorists, while the real terrorists burned down cities to the ground all across the US last year. The media has lied to you. They've twisted the story, manipulated the facts, data, and the science, and in many cases, ignored stories that matter. Well, no more. I'm here to shed light upon these stories, upon the unvarnished truth. If I've missed any crazy or wild footage from these meetings, please share it or link it in the comments so we can continue the discussion together. If you like the work I do and the message I spread, please share my video and leave a thumbs up on it. I will see you next time for my episode on fascism, an introduction. I look forward to seeing you there.